Hi everyone, thanks for joining me once again. It's a Saturday morning and it is story time once again. 3 stories for you this morning. Before we begin, a couple of things I want to say as always. First of all, I might sound very, very different today because I've got a stinking cold. There's a lot of it going around Thailand at the moment, and especially in Bangkok, very congested, right? And I've had this for about 3 or 4 days. It's really bad when I wake up in the morning, lots of phlegm and going to the bathroom and everything. And I wasn't going to record this today because I felt really awful this morning. I don't feel great now, but it's not live, so I figured I could edit out any time I have to stop and blow my nose or whatever. But I do sound quite gruff, so that explains it. If you're coming here on holiday or vacation the next few days, next week or so, I would suggest wearing a mask on the BTS or the MRT or in very congested areas, because as I say, there is a lot of this flu going around. Being a bit paranoid, the first thing I did was broke open one of the old COVID test kits that I've got here and tested myself, but I was negative. It's not COVID, it is just a flu, but it's a very, very bad flu. Okay, so enough about that. The second thing I wanted to say is thanks very much to all the support I received. Guys wrote in, if you remember, about, I think it was 2 weeks ago, I'd actually said that there was 1 or 2 guys not really complaining, but they were kind of whinging a little bit that my glasses reflect, and they were saying they couldn't watch the uploads, they couldn't concentrate because the reflection put them off. And I'd actually explained I'm trying to get it sorted out, but a lot of people did write in comments to say, gee, you know, these guys have got to get a life. So with that, once again, thanks. I'll try and get through this. There were 3 stories. I was going to add one of my own stories on to the end, ad lib it. I think I'm going to have to leave that today and just get through these 3 stories. Okay, so here we go.
สวัสดีค่ะ
My partner was at the top of the tree, the disguised working girl. Poorly educated, beautiful, but street cunning. We met in Melbourne, Australia 5 years ago. I supported her through the pandemic and all was good with us, holidaying together. She spent Christmas with my family. I met most of her family in Bangkok. She left clothes at my house as we were planning a future. Then, bam, no replies for 2 weeks. Then for the last 3 months, only text messages. We would video chat most nights, if not together. A friend of hers ratted her out. She met an older man in his late 70s and has been holidaying with him. She does not know that I know. I've done some research and apparently this is a common thing with some East European women as well. I was friends on Facebook with her family. Most have blocked me. All her friends have told me they do not even know who this man is, but to put it simply, it is greed. There is no doubt from anyone that she has or had feelings for me. I managed to contact someone in America who knows her well, as he was best friends with her previous partner before me. He passed away. His comments were, it's her culture, and he said she would disappear with his friend also. When I reflect, she actually did nothing but stroke my ego. She did not even give me a Christmas present or a birthday card. She received regular flowers, jewellery, holidays, stayed at quality hotels, e.g. Movenpick Phuket, private pool room, etc., all on me. She is very good at what she does. She can blend into your family and friends very well. The aerobics were good, 2 to 3 times a day. I doubt this is happening with the older men. The signs were there, but until I spoke to my new American friend who knew her, I could not put them together. She is still travelling to Australia on a visitor's visa and working illegally, which she has done for many years apparently. There is a large Thai population in Melbourne. Many girls work in massage shops. I don't really blame them as they cannot make that kind of money back home. So now I'm the backup plan. I have no doubt now I was plan A and she was always looking for a backup plan when with me. The Thai disguised working girl is not afraid to be seen in public with you, and discretion is only limited to social media, etc. They stay very private in their life. So few people outside trusted family members know what is happening. I suppose what hurt me the most as I self-analysed what I did wrong and was beating myself up was that her family and friends actually commented that they have never seen her emotionally attached as she was when she was with me, and she spoke about how I could support her and she could have a comfortable life. But I think it is a case of a leopard can't change his spots. This is a short story, but I hope it educates some men who might be currently in a similar situation. So I'm going to just pick up on one point on this story, and that is a lot of times I'll hear guys talk about Thai women as if they're all in the same boat. So, that's their culture. They're like that because that's their culture. They sell themselves because that's culture. And you've got to remember, you can't categorize all Thai women in the same boat, because most Thai women are decent, ordinary women like you'll find around the world. There's guys who marry them and they have families, and they're nice, respectable women. Now, without wanting to put down the bar girls or the girls who aren't educated who come down from Isan, they do what they got to do. They leave school without a decent education. The only other choice is maybe work in a factory. The money's very, very low. So nobody is slating them. Nobody's putting them down. But, you've got to remember, you can't paint them all with the same brush, because most Thai girls, they don't do this. And in fact, I've actually managed to meet a nice Thai lady who is, I think she's around 30, 35. I shouldn't really discuss her age, but I'm just waiting to get an answer for her, because she's a regular Thai woman with a good job and a car, and I want to interview her and just ask her opinions on foreigners when they come here, what she thinks about them, and also what she thinks about a lot of foreigners thinking all Thai girls are for sale. I think that'll be interesting, but I think it's really, really important that you don't kind of categorize everybody in the same boat and say, well, you could, some guys think they can come here and buy any Thai woman for a price. It's just how much, and that simply isn't true, and you can get yourself in a lot of trouble if you carry on in that way. Okay, not for me to preach, just giving an opinion as always. They're like backsides, everybody's got one, and I'm entitled to mine. Okay, right, let's get into the second story. I'm a 54-year-old Kiwi living in a rural area in a small province of Thailand. Allow me to briefly explain how I arrived at this point. Prior to the COVID pandemic, I resided in Taipei with a Taiwanese woman and was engaged to be married. I worked for a multinational company overseeing the Asia market. I earned a substantial income, and every other week I visited my agents and clients in various countries such as Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, Vietnam, the Philippines, South Korea, and many cities in mainland China. Life was good. I loved my job, the comfortable accommodations, the business class travel, and the social interactions. Then COVID struck the world, and I felt relatively secure being based in Taiwan. Working remotely seemed to be working out well. However, things took a turn when I received an email from our HR department stating that all employees must return to the USA within the next 7 days. As a holder of a US green card, I was expected to comply. In response, I expressed my gratitude, but I also my belief that I was safer staying where I was. My boss replied, indicating that if I didn't return within the specific time frame, they would offer me redundancy. I couldn't believe what I was reading, especially after dedicating 26 years of loyal service to the company. Although there are many times when I regret my actions, I responded with anger and said, "Go ahead." The next day, I found myself without a job, although I did receive a substantial severance package after dedicating so many years to them. I sat through the COVID mess in Taipei, which never imposed any lockdowns. I started arguing a lot with my fiancée. We were cooped up in a small one-bedroom apartment. She kicked me out and we broke up. To this day, she refuses to give me back the engagement ring, which cost me about $10,000. Reluctantly, I returned to the USA as I didn't want to lose my green card status. Back in the USA, I felt really unsafe regarding COVID and no longer had medical insurance. I went outside early morning once per week to buy essential food and a case of rum. I locked myself away, started drinking heavily every day and became depressed. I couldn't return to New Zealand as they had closed their borders even to citizens. Reluctantly, I returned to the USA, driven by the necessity of maintaining my green card status. Once back in the US, I experienced a heightened sense of insecurity due to the ongoing COVID pandemic, compounded by the absence of medical insurance. My weekly outings were limited to early morning trips. In this isolated state, I spiraled into heavy drinking on a daily basis, sinking into a deep depression. With New Zealand's borders even close to its citizens, I was unable to return there, which left me feeling abandoned by my own country's government. This period of heavy drinking persisted for approximately a year, progressively worsening. As the vaccines became available and COVID restrictions began to ease, a pivotal moment occurred. While eating a sandwich one day, my front tooth unexpectedly broke off at the root. Confronted by my dishevelled appearance resembling a drunken pirate with a scruffy beard, unkempt hair and a missing tooth, I decided it was time for change. I turned to the internet to explore dental opportunities in my city, receiving quotes upwards of 18,000 US dollars for the necessary dental work. During my online research, I stumbled upon YouTube bloggers discussing dental services in Thailand. I had a few trips previously to Thailand, my first at the age of 16. During a family vacation to Bangkok and Pattaya, this got my interest. Conducting through research, I discovered the Pattaya International Dental Centre, which provided an estimate that was remarkably more affordable than the quotes in the USA. At this point, Thailand had once again opened its doors with the introduction of the Thai pass system. Seizing the opportunity, I made the bold decision to take a chance and travel there. I booked the most economical flight I could available on Qatar Airways via Doha, an experience I found to be unpleasant and a significant mistake. Before departing, I managed to find a tenant for my apartment. A few days before my departure, I also registered on a dating site seeking connections for a new phase in my life. Instantly, I was matched with a Thai woman named May. On the dating site, May was from the countryside and worked on her father's farm. She shared with me that she needed to travel to Bangkok to fulfill a lifelong wish, to undergo breast enhancement surgery. At 38, she had been saving for this procedure for 12 years. Her request wasn't for financial assistance, but rather for someone to be there for her after the surgery. Apparently, the hospital required a companion for post-surgery care as she would be groggy and in considerable pain. I agreed to help her, explaining my situation, and she in turn agreed to accompany me to Pattaya for my dental work. We arranged to meet at the predetermined spot at Bangkok Airport. From there, we took a taxi to a comfortable hotel that I had frequented during my business trips. Thanks to accrued loyalty points, I had some free nights available. I noticed that May had only brought a small bag, resembling an old school bag. She appeared overwhelmed when we checked in and inquired about the cost. I assured her that the stay was covered by loyalty points and urged her not to worry. Despite my nerves, we settled into our room and surprisingly got along very well. May had an excellent sense of humour. While she slept, I enjoyed some beers and rum out on the balcony, reflecting on the mess I had made of my life since my previous visits. I ended up falling asleep next to her, still fully dressed and intoxicated. The following morning, May asked if I had taken a shower before sleeping, which I usually didn't do. I've since changed that habit. We went to the breakfast buffet, but May felt a bit uneasy in the environment, so we ate quickly and we left. The day after the surgery took place, I waited patiently, and when May emerged in a wheelchair, she looked worse for wear. I helped her into a taxi, and it became apparent why the hospital required a companion. She was in a lot of pain. Despite the situation, we shared some laughter. Interestingly, throughout the taxi ride, she asked me more than 10 times what I had for lunch that day. It was truly fulfilling to be able to provide assistance and support to this wonderful woman. Once May had recovered sufficiently to walk without much difficulty, we decided to take a taxi to Pattaya, where my dental appointments were scheduled to begin. I can't express enough praise for the dental clinic. Over the next 10 days, they completely transformed my oral health. All of this was accomplished at a fraction of the cost that it would have incurred in the USA. Thanks to their work, I could now smile without any self-consciousness. We all managed to find time for a few nights in Koh Larn, where we enjoyed swimming and indulged in plenty of food. May had a remarkable appetite. She could eat much more than me. One evening, during dinner, I noticed her looking at me with a big smile on her face. Naturally, I asked her what she was smiling was all about. She shared that her monk had foretold that she would meet a kind and decent foreigner. She explained that she had been praying to encounter someone like me, someone who was kind, honest, who kept their word about taking care of her. She believed that she had fulfilled her dream and expressed her everlasting gratitude and love for that. Hearing her words, I also smiled, but I was actually holding back tears. It was the most heartwarming thing anyone had said to me in a very long time. Despite her limited wardrobe of just 3 different outfits, May managed by washing her clothes and mine in the hand basins and hanging them out to dry overnight. I offered to take her shopping, but she politely declined my offer. May suggested I visit her father's farm and I agreed. We embarked on an overnight bus journey that lasted for 10 hours, taking us up country. Upon arriving at her farm, I was taken back by the condition of the house. May showed me to where we would be sleeping. It turned out to be a small room with no bed, just a blanket and a small pillow. The restroom was a traditional Thai-style toilet and there was a large bucket of water for flushing and washing. Seeing my discomfort and noticing her father's lingering stares, May decided to make a change. She proposed that we go stay at an old Thai resort located up in the mountains. We borrowed her brother's scooter and made a quick stop at a 7-Eleven for my Chang beer, then set off for the mountains. Upon arriving at the Thai resort, I couldn't help but notice its worn down and outdated appearance. An elderly lady came out and a conversation in Thai ensued. May explained that only one room was available. I found this peculiar given the emptiness of the place. No other people, cars or motorbikes were in sight. Despite this, we paid the 400 baht fee and received the keys to our modest, run-down cabin. At least there was a bed. After a brief dinner at the deserted restaurant, we returned to our room just as darkness settled in. This is when something else unusual occurred. May took a shower, gave me a goodnight kiss and closed the bedroom door. It's worth mentioning that I hadn't touched a drop of rum since our first night together. May had made it clear that she didn't want a boyfriend who resembled her alcoholic father, and I took her words seriously. I opened my first can of beer and took a few hasty swigs, thinking to myself, best part of the day. Afterwards, I stepped outside to smoke a cigarette, but the swarm of mosquitoes quickly drove me back indoors. As darkness took over, I switched on the feeble light above the fridge and settled down with my back turned to the bedroom. Then something truly odd occurred. Something brushed against the back of my head. My initial assumption was that May, who enjoyed playing minor pranks and scaring me, was behind this. When I turned round, much to my astonishment, she was nowhere in sight. Puzzled, I dismissed it as my imagination playing tricks on me. Taking another substantial gulp of beer, I was then taken aback as a hand glided across my face. The unexpected touch caused the hairs on my arms, legs and neck to stand on end, and I was left paralysed by the experience. The sensation repeated, the same hand tracing across my face, but in the opposite direction. My heart raced and an inexplicable presence seemed to envelop me, a feeling unlike anything I had ever encountered. Just then, a lot of barking dogs erupted outside the front door and May's light turned on. Reacting instinctively, I jumped up and hurried to the bedroom, closing the door rapidly. Trembling, I felt shaken to the core. In a calm voice, May said, "You saw the foreigner, didn't you?" I was taken aback and responded with confusion. She reassured me to come to bed and not discuss it at that moment, suggesting that we would talk about it the next day. Nestled closely to her in bed, I found myself with a pounding headache. Obviously, sleep was impossible. At some point during that distressing night, I needed to use the restroom, yet my fear was too intense to leave the bedroom. In a moment of desperation, I opened the bedroom window and urinated through it. I woke May up early around 4:30 a.m. and we hurriedly left. In my haste, I left behind my reading glasses and even the beers in the fridge, but those concerns were the least on my mind. Back at her farm, May explained that I had likely encountered or felt the presence of the ghost of a deceased Englishman. She went on to share that a few years prior, a wealthy English guy and his Thai wife had been brutally murdered by the wife's brother. The brother had believed that by doing so, he would inherit the substantial property and grand house the Englishman had constructed. Curiosity got the best of me and I decided to Google dead English millionaire in Prague. To my astonishment, the results confirmed the veracity of May's account. She elaborated further, explaining that the Englishman had been murdered on his property within that very valley. She clarified that foreigners or phalangs seldom ventured to or stayed in that area and suggested that his presence was an attempt to connect with someone of his own kind. Writing this now, I still get goosebumps. I've often pondered that night and questioned May why May had taken me there. Ultimately, I don't know the true reason. This experience profoundly revealed to me the spiritual and superstitious nature of the Thai culture. As a recent example, when we acquired a new scooter, May promptly took it to a monk for all its blessing. Even now, as we ride past that resort, go to the swimming in the river, I still experience a shiver down my spine. I returned to the States after this trip, stayed a week and returned to May on a 45-day visa, which the government started issuing, then applied for a retirement visa. We recently visited Laos and she had never left Thailand before. After we crossed the border, she became very quiet. So after a few hours, I asked her what's wrong. She said, "I don't like it here. It's dirty and I haven't seen a 7-Eleven. Let's go home," she said. To her credit, she stuck it out, but the whole time I know she felt very homesick. Thai people love their country. I have only been here a year now. I still haven't touched alcohol. Her cousins will come over and try to get me drinking shots of Thai whiskey, rum, homemade vodka, but I politely refuse. May looks at me with a very proud look, which makes me proud of myself once again. In closing, if I could choose between a rich, up-herself Taiwanese woman from Taipei versus a poor, honest, hard-working woman from rural Thailand, give me the Thai woman any day. Thailand and May probably saved my life. I was on a very dark path in the USA and had contemplated doing something very stupid. If you're listening to this and you find yourself in a similar situation, roll the dice like I did. What is the worst that can happen? If you respect the Thai culture, respect the people, don't do anything illegal, then everything will be good for you. Thanks for listening. Not a crash and burn story, but a true story on how Thailand managed to turn my life around. Thanks, Thailand, and thanks to May. So, I think if it was me and I'd been sitting in a hotel room in Thailand and I felt a hand brush across my face and then brush across my face again and I knew it wasn't May, the girl he was with, I wouldn't be staying in that bed. I'd be grabbing everything I could and saying, "Come on, we're going." Don't care what time of the day it was. I wouldn't have spent the night there, let alone urinating out of windows. Right, okay. So I will pick up on a point on this story. It is true, if you're in a country and you need quite a lot of dental work done, it's worth coming to Thailand because it's so professional here and it's probably about a third of what you'd pay in your own country. Years ago, I had a bridge in my teeth done in Pattaya. I think about 26 years ago, and it's still in place and it's, you know, it's been good for the last 26 years. And at the time, I think it cost me £400. I don't know why I can remember that, but it was £400. But in the UK, if I'd had it done privately, it would have been about £1,500. So if you're one of those guys and you know, you've got a mouth that looks like a set of snooker balls and you want to do something about it, then, you know, Thailand's quite a good option. The other thing is there are quite a lot of people who come here to get enhancements done, breast enhancements, surgery on the face. A lot of people come from America, and even with the flight and the week or two in a hotel, it does work out cheaper. So that's something to think about. And in fact, the government right now, they are they're trying to push medical tourism because it will bring more money into the country, obviously. And Thailand has a very, very good reputation for dentists and hospitals. So something worth thinking about if you're one of those people. Right, okay, I'm going to go into the third and final story, which is fairly short, and hopefully that will get me through. I'm feeling I'm starting to sweat. The old flu is coming out, but so far so good. So here we go. I have been lucky and done a lot of traveling in my life, up to date about 39 countries. The first two countries I went to were Russia and Japan before ending up in Australia, where I stayed for 5 years. It was during this time that I was also fortunate to do some traveling to Southeast Asia. I had friends in Singapore, and after travelling across the plane in a bus to Perth, I then caught a British Airways flight to Singapore. Now, to be honest, I have nothing but praise for BA, having flown with them a few times. I do not understand the negativity towards them which I have heard recently. They have always looked after me and made my flight enjoyable. I have been to many countries in Southeast Asia, notably Japan, Singapore, Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, Myanmar, Burma as it was known then. But one country I've never went to, I've never had any desire to go to, was the Philippines. But this changed about 3 years ago when I met my partner, as she is now on a dating site called Pina Love. After a lot of false starts and feeling my way around, I saw the woman I was now involved with. We will call her Rose. We talked for about 6 months, saw each other on video a lot before I made the conscious effort to go and see her. It would be a long flight, and to be honest, I had already vowed never to do a long flight again. Being content with a maximum of 4 hours in a metal tube at 39,000 feet or so, It was at this time that the dreaded pandemic hit the UK, and of course I wasn't going anywhere. What a dilemma, but nothing we could do about it. We continued to contact each other, and much later travel restrictions were eased, so I took the plunge to go to the Philippines. What a disaster. There was so much conflicting information around about travel and the restrictions to different countries that I got it all completely wrong. More about that soon. So, in my naivety, I got all my travel documents, or so I thought, and took the train to London. Here was where the plan started to unravel. I should have then taken the Heathrow Express or even the tube to Terminal 5, but no idiot here decided for some unfathomable reason to take a taxi. Stupid. Now Rose was getting very excited with the thought of our meeting, but it wasn't to be. At Heathrow, I showed all my travel documents and COVID test forms, thinking that all would be well. Next problem, no health passport to Philippines. So I ran around like a lunatic trying to find Wi-Fi so I could fill in the required documents online. After much sweating, etc., I managed to do this and went back to check-in. Things were about to get worse. It was a BA flight to Hong Kong first of all, and I had got a seat right next to the exit with more legroom, 39A. I was dreading the flight, to be honest, but the crew were brilliant and even got me some special food from first class. Talk about being looked after. The flight, in actual fact, was brilliant and time flew past, no pun intended. We landed eventually at Hong Kong, one place I never went to but always wanted to, but this time I only saw the airport. After disembarking, I went to transit for the flight to Manila, strolled up to the check-in desk and was promptly told that I needed a visa. I thought, honestly, that I could have a 30-day on arrival in Manila, but this was now different rules due to COVID. I was shocked. No way were we going to meet now. I knew that Rose would be heartbroken. It was at this time that I sat down in the transit lounge and cried my eyes out. So after a few hours, personnel came to me from BA and told me that I could not stop here. I could not also go into Hong Kong. So I was trapped. Anyway, a very nice woman came up to me later and told me that I had to go back to the UK. Oh my God, not what I was expecting. They arranged for me to fly back the next day on another BA flight, but they picked up the tab for the flight costs. So what could I do? Nothing but wait to go home. In the meantime, I contacted Rose and told her the bad news. She was crying on the phone and we both felt like our worlds had disintegrated. Now this was where I make a case for the professionalism of BA. I was shown onto the aircraft to the exact same seat I had flown in on, same type of aircraft. One of the crew came up to me and promptly told me how sorry he was for what had happened to me. He and the crew knew all about my disaster and made my return to the UK one I will always remember. They were brilliant. In fact, when I got home, I wrote a letter to BA telling them all about my adventure and thanking certain members of the crew for their brilliant service towards me. As for Rose, well, we cried into our soup, laugh out loud, and knew we both had to wait for the travel restrictions to be eased into the Philippines, which they were later, but that is another story. So that's it. You know, the COVID thing, the 2 years of COVID, I think it disrupted a lot of relationships, and obviously long distance relationships, they tend not to work, and I'm sure many couples did separate. Thankfully that's all behind us now. So that's about it for me. I'm gonna chip off now, guys, because I can feel the old throat going and I'm starting to sweat. As I said at the beginning of this video, I have got this terrible flu. I make these videos a week in advance, so by the time you watch this video, this would have been last Saturday, if that makes sense. So hopefully by then I'll be a lot better. I've got a couple of live streams tonight, but I think I'm just going to do one and keep it short because, as I say, this flu is pretty bad. Right, thanks for listening to the 3 stories once again. I'll be back next Saturday. Hopefully I'll be a bit fitter than this, and this horrible flu will have left me. Until then, have a great weekend, and I'll see you all real soon.